Hello everyone, thank you so much for coming. My name is Katya Fisher. I'm a partner at Greenspoon Marder, and I'm also leader of the Blockchain, Digital Assets, and Technology Transactions Practice Group. I am extremely honored that my firm invited me to come and give this talk because I don't know how familiar all of you are with Greenspoon Marder, but this firm has more powerhouse women in leadership positions than any national firm I've ever seen. So I'm guessing that they asked me to speak just because they figured I'm the one who likes to talk. So yes, I would like this to be interactive. I want this to actually be useful. I thought about this talk a lot for the last month and what I would actually discuss that would actually be beneficial to the audience. So help me as much as I'm trying to help you. If there's something that's interesting, if you have a question, if there's something that you want me to touch upon, you just let me know. So a little bit of background about myself. Again, I'm the leader of this practice group. I run a team that is pretty amazing. We have lawyers who are corporate lawyers, litigators, intellectual property lawyers, real estate attorneys who are all helping me with respect to this practice team. How many of you actually know what blockchain is? That's not bad. That's like a little bit more than half. That's actually really impressive.
Katya, ask how many really understand it. That's where
How many of you really understand what it is? Okay, there we go. That's more like what I was expecting. So you understand that even my clients half the time have no idea what it is that I'm talking about. So my job has been a very exciting and interesting one because I'm leading a very, very innovative area of law. This is something very new. Most people have no idea what I'm talking about, and I have to explain it and teach it over and over and over again on a daily basis, along with actually servicing clients and doing legal work. So when I graduated law school, the climate was pretty bad. I entered law school because I wanted safety. I wanted a safety net. I had had this idea when I graduated college that maybe I was going to be in the music business, entertainment, doing something cool and interesting. And then I realized, you know what, I like to make money. So I decided to go to law school because it seemed like a sure thing. And when I came to law school, I found out not so much. You know, I got that whole like look to the left of you, look to the right of you, you're screwed, you know, the whole I got a job interview with UBS. Yeah. And I went through all of the interviews for a summer associateship. And it was known at the time, you get the summer associateship, like you're getting the job. And I got my final interview where they put me in a hotel overnight. I woke up in the morning, I was taken to a breakfast, it was a whole big thing. I was taken in to interview with a woman, and she had a TV on behind her in her office. And on the news, it was talking about how Bear Stearns had just collapsed. And that was it. I'm not getting a job. Right? So all of a sudden, the climate changed tremendously, and I understood that there's no safety net. I graduated from law school, and even though I had amazing grades and wonderful work experience and this incredible resume and blah, 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 finding a job was almost impossible. And most of the people from my class decided to not even become lawyers. There were some who made it into very good firms, but for the most part, people were in dire straits. And I was offered some jobs, but not the kind of amazing lawyer salary that I was expecting. I'm going to carry Bradshaw. Nothing like that.
Good shoes.
I had to work very hard for these shoes. And I'm going to explain to you how I did it. So I was told you have to network. You got to network, you got to put yourself out there, you got to put on the suit, you got to have the resume. I went to the most successful person I knew, the wealthiest, most successful entrepreneur. And I went to his office. And I came to him and I sat down with my resume in my suit, and I gave him my pitch. My incredible grades, how smart I am, this and that, etc. And I said, look, I want to know how you did it. How do I become like you? I want to become really successful. I want to become #1 in my field. Help me. face, completely humiliated, very embarrassed, my little resume in my bag, and thinking, what a horrible person, what a jerk. And a decade later, I think, because I still think he's a jerk. But I don't think everybody needs to be like him. But he taught me more about business in that 30 seconds than any book, any lesson, anything. And what I was always very grateful to him for is that he wasn't soft on me because of the fact that I was a woman. Because I actually walked out of there thinking, how can you talk that way to a girl? And I'm really, really, really happy that he decided to treat me with as much cruelty and nastiness as he treated everybody else. And what I learned from him was this. What's in it for me? If you want to influence people, if you want them on your side, if you want them to do business with you, if you want them to listen to what you have to say, the first thing you have to think about is them. You have to think about them, not you. And that's how you influence each person one by one by one. So that was the first lesson that I got, and that's the one that sticks with me every single day. So now here I am, and I was asked to give a little talk on what it means to be a thought leader. And I think the first thing is, what does the term thought leader even mean? Because most people, you go on LinkedIn, everybody is thought leader in their profile. Expert, coach, thought leader, something along these lines. And the term has become so incredibly diluted that it's become something that people laugh about sometimes, people roll their eyes, but it has some meaning, it has some weight, so I looked it up. So the idea is that what is a thought leader? A thought leader is a trusted expert in his or her field. That's the go-to person. So what is the most important thing about being a thought leader? It's being an expert. So that takes me to part 2. The reason that the term thought leader is overused, the reason that people mock it, the reason that it sounds like just a PR term, a marketing term, a buzzword, is because people have forgotten the expert part. The idea that you actually have to be knowledgeable within your field. And I think that before you start thinking about how you're going to influence other people and how you're going to get 1 million followers on social media, you need to think about what it is that you actually have to offer other people. And I think that, to be honest with you, for women especially, I think that's incredibly important. Because what I'm going to say next is a little bit controversial, but sometimes I find that women professionals bank on the woman card a lot without realizing that they actually have so much more to offer, that there's just so many different things that we can do. I mean, in business, in STEM, in science, in marketing, and whatever your field happens to be, it doesn't matter. It could be medicine, it could be, automobiles. But there's so much opportunity to actually dive into your field and become an expert and really go ahead and roll up your sleeves and learn. And one of the most important things to keep in mind is that you don't have to know everything to be an expert. You just have to know enough. So I know that Malcolm Gladwell, in one of his books, said that it takes about 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. So that's how long it takes. So you have to be prepared to go ahead and do that. And that's, I think, more important than anything else, because you have nothing to offer anybody if you don't have something of substance underneath. So I'll give you an example. My friend Ani just walked in.
Oh my. I came from Jupiter, sorry.
Ani's amazing. Ani's the Oprah to my Madonna. And Anu runs a major media company. Anu is working with world organizations. Anu's doing incredible things. And Anu looks really young and really energetic.
I am.
But what I wanted to say about Anu is that if you actually talk to Anu and you learn about her work experience and what she's done over the last decade of her life, it is amazing. There is so much underneath and so much that she's built upon to get to where she is, to the point where she was comfortable enough to decide that she wanted to go out into a public arena. And that's something that I respect tremendously. And I think that everybody has that opportunity. You just have to dive in, do the work, figure out what it is that's interesting to you, and become an expert. So let's assume that you're all experts, because you all look like you're all experts. The next question is this, right? What does it mean to be a thought leader, and what is it that you have to do? about the nitty-gritty later, but the truth is that most of you know what you have to do. You have to network, you have to get on social media, you have to get your word out there, you have to blog, etc. We'll talk about that. I think that the first thing and the most important thing is to figure out how to get right with yourself. So, to me, the most important thought leader who ever lived was Marcus Aurelius. Does anyone know who Marcus Aurelius was? All right, so we got to So Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful emperor in the history of the Roman Empire. He had more power, more absolute power than any leader today. He could have anything he wanted at any time. And he wrote a book called The Meditations. And if you want to write this down, the best translation, best version of it is called The Emperor's Handbook. And The Meditations is one of the most incredible books I've ever read because it's his private diary. It was never meant to be shared with anyone. He didn't care about how it would influence other people. He wrote it for himself. And that diary was a constant reminder to himself on a daily basis of his own philosophies, which is known as Stoic philosophy. It's one of the great Stoic philosophers. So he would remind himself every single day when you read this diary over and over and over again, he keeps talking about the fact that the mind has more power than anything else. External events have no meaning. It's what goes on in here that gives meaning to anything. You decide every day you have 100% absolute power over everything because you always have the power to decide with your attitude towards anything. If something's bad, if something's good, if something makes you happy, if something makes you sad, if something's scary, if something's cool, that's all in here. Everything else that goes on in the external world doesn't mean anything. And what to me was so incredible about the Meditations was the fact that A, he wrote it for himself. He never meant for anyone to see it, so it's very authentic. The next thing that to me is incredible about it is the fact that this is somebody who could have anything he wanted. And what he really wanted was to have real power over himself before he would exert power over others in order to be a truly great leader. And he's considered to be one of the great, peaceful, calm, level-headed leaders in history. And the next thing is this. When you go through the Meditations, he keeps saying the same things over and over to himself. All the time. He's like, I have to remember not to get angry when this person pisses me off, and et cetera, et cetera. And what that tells me is that he understood that he himself was infallible. It's not that he woke up every morning and he was a perfect person because he practiced this incredible philosophy and he was the emperor of Rome. He was constantly struggling with his own internal thoughts. So to me, that's number one. I think that he's absolutely incredible. Because the truth is, the number one thing that keeps anybody back from anything in this world, especially from being a leader, is fear. And if you're not able to get over your own internal mental noise and chatter, you're never going to get forward in life with anything. I myself am prone to this all the time. I get upset about everything, I get anxiety, I get nervous, I post something on social media, 5 minutes later I want to take it down. It happens to me constantly. I get terrified. I want to put myself out there, I want people to know who I am, I want to talk about what I do, then I get scared. And I go back and forth. And the thing is that, so going back to my career, early in my career I worked in a law firm, didn't make the kind of money that I thought I was going to make watching all those Sex and the City episodes. Didn't have the big shoe collection.
Yeah, you're a good liar.
I worked for shoes. So, I went ahead and I started my own law practice. And I started very young. But what I did is I went to attorneys whom I had worked for, either when I worked after graduating law school or when I had interned, whom I had built really great relationships with. And I said, listen, here's the deal. I started my own practice. I'm doing this. I need your help. Can I hire you for an hour of your time? You're going to consult me, make sure I didn't do anything so egregious that I'm going to get in serious trouble, that I'm doing a good job. And they said, okay. And I said, listen, I'm going to pay you. You're going to make money. But I'm going to pay for 1 hour of your time, and I do the rest. Some lawyers said no. Some lawyers were more than happy to say yes. I spent many, many, many weekends in the law library. I spent a lot clients. So I started with one client, and then another, and then another. And every single client, the only thing that I ever worked on was personal relationship. Because I would tell the client, I can't compete with a big law firm. The only thing that I can tell you is you get to work with me. And hopefully it's going to be a lot of fun. And so through referrals, over time, bigger clients would come in, I became more experienced, I started to do more and more, it became more interesting, I started to become known. But I never marketed myself publicly. I never ever did any social media marketing, I never did advertising, I never publicly spoke, it was all referrals. And many years in, one of my friends came with me to one of the events that was put on by a client of mine. And the event was Synergy Global Forum at Madison Square Garden. So I was representing a university from overseas called Synergy, which put on this massive global forum at Madison Square Garden, where we brought in Richard Branson and Malcolm Gladwell and Nassim Taleb and Steve Forbes, and we had 5,000 people. And I was hiding in the corner. And my friend said, Katya, do you know that nobody knows you were the lawyer for this? Do you know, like, nobody understands that you, some people think that you're, whoever, you're in the corner. And I said, well, I get it, but I mean, okay, so I did the legal work. She said, but you put the whole thing on. I said, it's fine, I'm not one of the big speakers, etc. She said, you understand that nobody knows what it is that you do and what you're capable of. Why aren't you out there speaking, talking about, the type of stuff that you're working with, talking about the things that you do? And I said, but that would be so unladylike, that's so embarrassing. To be self-promoting, I would feel horrible. What are people going to think about me? Right? I'm a climber, I'm this, I'm that. She said, why do you care? You have so much to offer, just go out there and do it. And this started to change my thinking. And that's why, again, when I talk about Marcus Aurelius, the point is that I have these thoughts in my head all day, every day. I am so self-conscious all the time. But I try to have two Katyas in my head constantly, right? There's the one that's always stressing out, and then there's the other one who says, who cares, just go. And the one who says, who cares, just go, has been a really, really good friend to me. So, because over time, as I've gone out there, as I've started speaking, as I've started, putting myself out there more and more, guess what? Here I am, right? And it becomes easier. So the next thing is this, when you talk about fear, when you think about it, I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you, but I used to go to meetings, talks, conferences, panels, and I would listen to the panel speakers, and they would say something, and in my mind I would say, wrong. God, I could have explained that 10 times better. No, he was wrong. And I think these things, but I don't get up. I don't stand up in the audience and raise my hand and say, excuse me, I'd like to correct you. And I didn't go and tell the conference organizers, you know what, I really should be speaking because I know better, right? I was shy. And the thing is that if you have that block, if you have those moments when you think to yourself, I should have been there, I should have been doing that, I would have done a better job speaking, I would have written a better essay. Why didn't you? Why didn't you do it? Why? If that's what you wanted to do. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. But my guess is if you're here for this talk, you're interested in leadership, you're interested in thought leadership, you want to put yourself out there. So why don't you? Because you don't think that you deserve it. It's hard to admit that, but that's the truth. Somewhere deep down, you don't think that you're good enough. You think that either you're not smart enough, or people won't respect you, or you haven't reached that pinnacle of your career. Whatever it is, you don't think that you deserve to be up there. So when you start changing whatever goes on in here, you start to discover that everything that goes on in the outside world completely shifts. Completely. And so for me, just talking from my own experiences, the second I started to realize that if I'm nervous to go up on stage, if I'm nervous to promote myself, if I'm nervous to say, no, I should have that position because I actually know more than that person does, or whatever, right? If I'm nervous, it's because I don't think I deserve to be there. And the people who do think that they deserve to be there, they're going to get there. And sometimes they don't deserve to be there. Right? And that's the funniest thing. things, people hate him, and he doesn't care. And there he is. And he just keeps going. And you start to realize these things, and the things that, you know, for you internally, you make a mistake, or you make a misstep, or you do something, nobody else really cares. No one's really paying attention to you as much as you think that they are. Okay, let's just think this through for a second. What's the worst thing that's going to happen if you don't know the answer on a panel? And I said, well, then I will be exposed as a fraud. And people will understand that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm stupid. I have absolutely no business being where I am in the industry that I'm in. And no one will ever work with me again. I'll get no clients and I'll have no friends. And he looks at me and he goes, sounds about right. Katya, you must think that the world is really stupid. You must think that everyone is so dumb that they keep giving you these opportunities because they think that you deserve them, but you really don't. And that's just how stupid they are. So if that's stupid, what do you care anyway? Just go and stupid. And so that's when I started to get over myself. So that's one of the big things that I think is extremely important to always just keep in mind. That, you know, you have to be your own best friend. You got to push yourself out there, and you have to really think that you deserve it at all times, because you absolutely do. And if you don't take advantage of opportunities that are in front of you, someone else who is less deserving will, always, guaranteed. So then the next thing is, okay, you got over what goes on in your mind. Now you want to actually become a thought leader. What's the next step? So I think the next step is figuring out clearly, what's your brand? Who are you? How do you actually make yourself marketable? How do you make yourself interesting? How do you make yourself stand out? What I'm going to say is really, really cliche. Be yourself. Because here's the thing, there's only one of you. And that's a really, really important thing to keep in mind. I also had, you know, along with all my other psychological problems that I'm airing out this evening, one of my other issues always was, well, there's no one like me out there as an attorney. If I'm going to be an attorney, I have to be really serious. I have to, you know, work hard, I have to put on the suit, I have to become extremely rigid. I can't just be me and, you know, loopy and all over the place. It's not going to work. The more I stopped caring, and the more I started to be myself, the more my career took off. Because the more genuine and authentic you are, the more people actually just naturally gravitate to you. And the more you become comfortable and you're able to go ahead and talk about the things that you think are important. So that's the first thing, is really don't be afraid to be yourself, even if there's no one else like you out there, because the fact that there's no one like you out there is your strongest asset. There's a book, I actually saw it's going to be a book topic at another TCI Talk coming up, called Blue Ocean Strategy. And Blue Ocean Strategy is amazing. So for those of you who haven't read it, the idea of Blue Ocean Strategy is that everybody's fighting in this one part of the ocean, trying to, you know, do the same thing, and it ends up being a red ocean because there's blood everywhere. But then there's all this blue ocean out there that nobody's a part of. So in every industry, you're going to go ahead and you're going to see all of your colleagues and everybody who's in your field fighting over the same piece of meat. So all you have to do is just pivot ever so slightly. And you're going to find that there's all this opportunity out there. So that's what happened to me in many ways. Number one, just in terms of being myself, being comfortable talking, being comfortable, you know, being on stage, expressing my thoughts, etc. Guess what? It turns out that there's tons of opportunity because people are always asking me to speak. And even within my field, within my industry. So I started out, I was a corporate lawyer, I was representing media and tech companies from around the world and helping them set themselves up in the United States. So doing a lot of cross-border work. I'm licensed before the U.S. Tax Court, so I was helping with tax structuring, intellectual property, and the like. And I was working with a lot of entrepreneurs. I was working with a lot of foreign companies that were doing cross-border business. And in the last few years, a lot of them started to get interested in blockchain and cryptocurrency. And some of my clients said, Katya, can you help us with this and this? I didn't know what it was. And I would hear people talk about cryptocurrency, and it sounded so incredibly daunting. The people who talked about it, I remember I went to my first talk on cryptocurrency. There were 7 people in the audience, 5 were asleep. Those are the friends that I brought with me. I promised them dinner afterwards. And, there weren't that many people in the industry, and it just seems like something so, complex and esoteric and complicated, and people sounded so much smarter than I was, and I couldn't figure any of it out. And I decided, you know what? Now I have to learn it. I'm scared of it, so I gotta figure out what it is. And I found every single piece of reading material that I could find at the time, and the one book that had been published on the topic, and I holed myself up in my room for 1 week. And I read everything from cover to cover. And when I came out, I realized it's 99% nonsense, and 1% is brilliant. And okay, I'm in. I want to start working in this field. I want to start helping clients in this field. So that's how I ended up going into it and just really diving in. I was sort of pulled in by some clients, and I started doing work within the field. And I started working with different clients, working on different projects, and because this is such a hot area right now, there are so many conferences, so many events, so many opportunities. In the beginning, I remember the first time I was asked to speak, I was like, shaking, terrified, I'm not going to know the answer to a question, right? My life is going to be over, etc. But then suddenly I realized that there was a big blue ocean because there are no female lawyers in blockchain. There are about 3 or 4. That's it. So suddenly I realized that everywhere I go, I'm an anomaly. The fact that I'm different is what made me special and what made me marketable. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity when you're just yourself and when you also just try to see where you can go ahead and go into an industry already with the expertise that you've honed through your 10,000 hours of becoming an expert, and how you can just add a twist to it. Because I wouldn't be where I am just jumping into this field if I didn't already have all this experience running a law practice, dealing with corporate law, dealing with tax law, dealing with IP, everything else that comes under it that gives it weight. At the same time, while it's important to be yourself, one of the principles of Stoic philosophy is that you're supposed to have mentors. There was a Stoic philosopher named Seneca who said, without a ruler, you cannot make the crooked straight. So I do think it's really important that while you figure out what it is that makes you unique and special, or just while you try to just be yourself and enjoy it, at the same time, take a look around and figure out who those mentors are. How do you want to emulate? Who do you want to emulate? And what's the kind of brand that you want to have, and what's the kind of message that you want to have? Because you do want to make sure that you have a very sort of cohesive message, and you're not all over the place. And what's good is that once you have a goal and once you have an image in your mind, you can cut out a lot of noise. Because at some point, you're going to get confused. Well, should I be focusing my attention on this, or should I focus it on that? Do I need to be speaking at this event, or should I speak at that one? Do I want to be speaking, or do I want to be writing? Whatever it is. Once you figure out your brand and your message, it becomes easier. So how do you figure out mentors? There is an amazing book that was actually written by a friend who you introduced me to, Erica.
Okay. She wrote a book. Oh, that book. That Erica. Yes, that
You gave it to me.
That's true. Yes, I did.
There's an amazing book. I actually wrote to Erica. I wanted her to send me a copy before this talk, but I didn't have that time. There's a book called The Little Brand Book, if you want to look it up. It's by Erica Maria Brechtel. And it is the most fun book in the world, at least to me. Erica is a brand and marketing expert. And she created this book whereby she gathered, I think it's around 200 different professional women that we all know, everything from Anna Wintour to Beyonce, whoever. And she put them on a book, and she identifies exactly what their brand identifiers are. What are sort of the 3 tag words that you would use? Strong, glamorous, or sincere, whatever it is. And in the beginning of the book, she actually makes you take a quiz about yourself. And at the end of the quiz, you're able to figure out which one of those women is sort of your spirit animal in terms of your brand. And it's great because it's really, really fun, because on the one hand, it actually uses very, very old principles from Stoic philosophy. It mixes them with classic concepts behind branding. And it also does something that's really fun, which is, how many of you have ever played the Who Am I on Sex and the City game? Right? Are you a Charlotte? Are you a Carrie? Are you a Samantha? Sometimes it's Golden Girls. Are you a Blanche? It's my favorite show of all time. So that's why we but the point simply being that, you know, it's a fun game to try and figure out who you identify with. And when you go and you use the little brand book, it's actually really inspiring, because you're going to see that there are so many different types of women out there in so many different fields, and all of them are amazing. And all of them are different from each other. There's no one cookie cutter way to present yourself, and you can find the one that you identify with the most. So I think it's a really cool book. I highly recommend it. Beyond that, getting into, I guess, the nitty-gritty of it all and putting it all together. So you become an expert. You understand that you need to figure out what's in it for other people. You've figured out a little bit about what your brand identity is. You have the confidence to go out there. The next thing is really just engaging with whatever the community is that you want to be a part of. Because you can just decide, you know, I don't know, I'm going to go and I'm going to create a Twitter account and I'm going to try to get 500,000 followers and tweet a bunch of stuff. First of all, it's about quality, not quantity. If you are looking to be a B2C type, then maybe you need to have lots of followers. If you're in the media industry, if you're selling a product nationwide, that becomes important. If you're in a different type of career, like for example, I'm in law, if you're in finance, etc., it might not matter to you to have 50,000 followers who aren't really the ones that you want to have access to. So I can tell you that for me, I don't have 50,000 followers or 1 million followers. I have, I think, like 4,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is not considered a lot, but I have the right 4,000. And I have the right people who listen to me. And I'm able to call up the right people and make the right introductions. And I know people around the world who are specific to exactly what my needs are. And that's what you want. You want to figure out, who am I trying to influence? Who am I trying to reach? So that becomes the next question. Don't, you know, just think that you want to get quantity all over the place, and you want to get lots and lots of people paying attention to you. You want to get the right people. The next thing is this. What are you good at? Are you a speaker? Are you a writer? Me, for example, I'll tell you 2 things. First of all, I hate Twitter with a passion. I've tried it. It doesn't work for me. I don't understand it. I don't know how to follow people on it. I like to talk a lot, you know, trying to make my messages into tiny little succinct tweets. It's never going to work for me. So for me, in terms of social media platforms, I prefer LinkedIn. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn because there I can actually talk. I can put out my message. I can go ahead and engage with people. Writing. I don't keep a blog. Why don't I keep a blog? Because in my experience, a lot of people get very excited about doing a blog. You start a blog, you write a few blog posts, and then you don't want to do it anymore. And if you do that, you're going to lose people's trust. And once you start to lose people's trust, you're going to lose their attention. They're not going to care about you so much anymore. So for me, I would much rather go ahead and write a few really long, really meaningful articles a few times a year, and try to make sure that they're put in the right places. However, I know some people who blog every single day. And that's what they do. They maintain a routine. They get up in the morning, and it's 1 hour a day of writing. And I respect them tremendously. Some of them are incredible writers. So if that's something that you like to do, then that's what you should be doing. Some people love public speaking. Some people hate public speaking. You need to figure out where you fit in naturally, because if you really hate what it is that you're doing, you're not going to get anywhere. You actually have to enjoy the process, because the big secret to all of this is that there's no end goal. There's no moment at which you think, okay, I've, you know, gotten enough followers and I've influenced enough people, and now I've made it, and now what? What are you going to do next? Hopefully you're really enjoying what it is that you're doing, because there's no other reason to be doing it. So at this point, does anyone have any specific questions?
to understand where you monetize things in terms of you speak, you've gone to all these things. At what point do you feel that you can charge to speak, or how do you make that happen?
It's an excellent question. It's a great one. So the way that I do it is this. In terms of monetization, so for me, speaking, I don't really monetize my speaking engagements. I don't get paid to speak. I get expenses covered quite frequently. I don't charge a speaker fee. Maybe I would, eventually. But no, I don't. Because for me, what I'm trying to do is twofold. One, obviously at the end of the day, I'm doing business development for my law practice. That's what matters. At this point, I'm doing talks like the one I'm doing tonight because I actually just think it's important. And I like the idea of giving back. Because back to mentors, to be honest with you, except for, you know, the fun ones like Madonna, I didn't really have any growing up that I could really look at and say that's, you know, who I'd like to be. There weren't enough of those. So I figured if I can start to become one, cool. I'm happy about that. But back to your question. So in terms of monetization, the way I think about it is, A, how do I get a direct hit? What am I looking for? So back to quality over quantity. Why do I not care about having 50,000 followers? Because I'm a lawyer, because I work with mid-size and big companies and high net worth clients. So most of the people who might follow me on Twitter are never going to become my client. So while it might be fun for my ego and exciting and interesting, it's not that important to me. And that's a huge mistake that I see people making all the time. They're not specific about their audience. If I agree to go speak at a conference, I research the conference. Who's going to be there? Do I care about the other panelists? Is that who I want to impress? Do I know that there are going to be some select people in the audience? Sometimes I will speak at an event or I will host an event just so I can put it on social media because there's somebody who I want to see it on social media and get jealous that that person wasn't there. I do it all the time. So I'm going to do an event, I'm going to say it's VIP only, not invite anybody, take some amazing pictures, and let everybody get home. That's a big secret. Oops. I just gave it away. So that's a big one. And then the next thing with monetization is figuring out how much of your time you want to invest. So sometimes I get frustrated, or I have gotten frustrated over the years. Oh my God, I'm doing so much for free. I'm offering to do this for free. I'm offering to do this for free. Why am I doing this? Well, I always think about it this way. I know people who spend an enormous amount of money to sponsor events, to get their name out there, and to have a presence. I've gotten to the point where I get offered to speak at everywhere, everything all the time. I don't have to pay for it. It's my time, but I always think what's the monetary value. So if I'm getting invited to be at this conference and they're going to give signage up on the wall and they're going to issue a press release and I know that that's a $50,000 sponsorship, that's $50,000 I didn't have to pay. So you just have to think of it a little bit as a numbers game when you decide what's valuable to you.
Can you talk about mentors, kind of how you've approached mentors? You talked a little bit about looking at women who you want to emulate, but maybe study them, but how do you approach someone who you want them to be your mentor? And then is that different from you as being successful already versus first starting out? And then the other part of the question is, do you mentor other people?
Sure. So in terms of approaching mentors, I know the usual advice is just to go to the person you admire and say, I'd really like to talk to you or have a cup of coffee with you. I'm going to give you the same advice that I was given years ago. Think about what's in it for that mentor. You're going to get so much farther with people when you figure out what's in it for them and what they're looking for and how you can do something for them. So that's the first thing. The second is in terms of the type of mentor. So you never stop looking for mentorship, ever. Obviously, for me, the kind of mentors that I was looking for earlier in my career versus the ones that I look for now, it's different. It's a different type of a dialogue. Early in my career, I was terrified of everything. And I was desperately looking for attorneys who had some experience, who were just willing to help me out and to walk me through things and do hand-holding. Okay, that still happens sometimes. No, but it's different. And obviously, the more settled you become in your career, the more you start to have a different type of rapport. So I'll tell you, the greatest professional mentor that I have right now is the former director of the World Economic Forum. And she considers me her older sister. And yeah, we hang out all the time, we're super best friends. That's the type of relationship that, you know, you have to get to a certain point in your career for someone like that to want to have that type of mentor-mentee relationship with you. And I'm very, very lucky, very, very fortunate to have it. But again, I think that the best way to approach people is always to try and figure out what the angle is for them.
You are very open in your self-disclosure.
Yes.
Are there times when you think that's not appropriate? I mean, I find I wrestle with that a lot personally, because I'm out there and people can read my face. And I often kind of go, oh, I probably should have said that.
All the time.
Kind of.
All the time. I wrestle with it all the time. I mean, I'm being very, very open in this conversation, to be honest, for one reason, which is that I was asked to give a talk on thought leadership for a women's organization. And I decided, let me be as open as I can be to be as helpful as I can be in this particular talk. Believe me, when I go up on stage and I'm asked to talk about, you know, tax consequences of failing to file your F-bars for your cryptocurrency taxes, I'm probably not going to talk about my shoes and my emotions. So I think that there's a time and a place for everything. But again, yes, I have a lot of times when I think back on things I say or things that I post, and I think I shouldn't have done that, or maybe I should have said it like this, etc. And what I've realized with time is it doesn't matter. Just keep moving, because no one really cares about you that much. You go home like this, shaking for the next 6 hours that everybody judged you. They're not thinking about you. They're watching TV.
They're thinking about themselves.
They're thinking about themselves. Exactly. So.
Hi. So I was going to say the simplest use case. I'm working with Katya on a number of things, and one of the things I'm working on is this digital wallet by women for women. So if you think about the refugee crisis right now, if there are all these people that are displaced and they don't have identities, many of them are children. We don't know who they are, where they came from. So with blockchain, you can actually figure out a way to give them identities that you can't change it once it's in digital form, and ultimately you can use that identity to start banking them. So then you've got people that can go in and you can send them money. They can start to collect currency that's not going to be taken from them, stolen from them. So just think about all those people in the world that if you don't even have an identity, what happens next? And if you're moving across borders, it's an even bigger problem. You can't get health care that you need, place to live, a car, like all these things without that initial document. So this is as basic as it gets for any woman out there. And I think if you lose your passport, driver's license, you'll understand what you have to go through to get it back. So just think on those terms to keep it really easy.
I think Donna made an incredibly strong and important point, which is that what this technology can do in terms of social impact is extraordinary. So first of all, in terms of empowering people in other countries who don't have access to traditional banking, for example, but they do have smartphones, this is going to empower them in ways that are unheard of as of right now. Even banking, they are banked, even here in the United States. Think about all the illegal immigrants, all the people who are on a cash system. If they can go ahead and start using cryptocurrency and then use that cryptocurrency across borders, that helps them tremendously. If you think about the crisis in Venezuela, I don't know if you've seen what's been going on there with respect to cryptocurrency, but that's become a safer mechanism for them than anything else. With respect to what's going on in terms of the global identity crisis, it's huge. The idea that people would have access to identity, be able to cross borders, the idea that you would empower women to have control over their finances. The technology has amazing possibilities.
Thank you. One last question, and I know, if we've got a few minutes for happened? So at one point you had a private practice, right? You had your own business. What went into the decision-making process to bring you back into kind of the corporate world and as an employee?
Sure. So, my practice got too big for me. That's what happened. I had my practice. I loved it. I loved having my own firm. I loved being a boss. It was great, and I started to get fielded with lots of offers from firms that wanted me to be a partner. And I started to consider it because at a certain point I understood that to continue on the path that I was on, to continue to service clients and go bigger and bigger and do the things that I wanted to do, I needed to have a national firm behind me. And I chose Greenspoon Marder for a number of reasons. I thought it was a really exciting place to be. Again, they actually found me, not the other way around. And they came and they made an offer for me to become a partner in the firm and to actually lead and open this practice group. And I thought, what a great opportunity, and it's going to be exciting, and why not? And so I just picked up my practice and I just moved it in here. So in terms of day-to-day, to be honest with you, most of my work in life is actually pretty similar to what it was before. Because I'm servicing a lot of my clients that I grandfathered in, but then I'm also working on a lot of new projects since I came in here. But it's good because now I have a lot of other attorneys whom I can work with, whom I can collaborate with, and the firm gives me tremendous support, which is wonderful. All right, everyone, thank you so much.